At my husband's funeral, a shocking betrayal exposed the hidden poverty I was about to face. The air was thick with unspoken grief, punctuated by the scent of flowers that did little to mask the desolation swelling in my chest. As I stood before the gathered faces, friends, neighbors, and familiar smiles that felt like shards in my heart, I took a shaky breath, preparing to deliver a tribute to Mark, my partner and best friend. He was gone, and the finality of that thought hit harder than I ever anticipated. Before I could speak, tension hung heavy in the room. It was Mark's business partner, Carl, who broke the stillness. A fateful revelation spilled from his lips, twisting the honor of mourning into a horror of betrayal. Mark had hidden debts, he declared, the room erupting in gasps that seemed to envelop me like a physical force. Each whisper flooded through me, sharp and accusatory, revealing shadows of doubt I never wished to imagine. My heart raced as disbelief clawed its way through the layers of anguish. Why had he kept this from me? The man I loved, an embodiment of loyalty, had masked a dark secret. In that moment, I was drowning in a whirlpool of betrayal and insecurity. The foundation of my life, my dreams of a happy future, shattered in a startling instant. The laughter of my students echoed in my mind, a stark contrast to the hush that enveloped me now. Would I lose everything I had built, not just with Mark, but as an individual? The thought paralyzed me, leaving my breath uneven and my thoughts tangled in chaos. What do I do now? The question was muted by the silence that followed Carl's shocking claim, but in my soul, the urgency screamed. I could feel judgment seeping into every interaction, every sympathetic gaze. They weren't just mourning Mark. They were also assessing me, questioning my worth and my ability to survive this newly exposed reality. I wanted to shout, to demand answers from the shadows he cast over our lives. But what would that reveal about him? About us? Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. As I stood there, a surge of determination rose within me, battling against the weight of humiliation. I had to reclaim my narrative, not just to uncover the truth, but to find my own identity within this turmoil. What would I do when the dust settled? The mission was clear: unearth my husband's hidden choices and take control of my life. The specter of poverty was real. Each day, the threat of losing the home we had built loomed larger. What if it all slipped away, along with the love and security I had cherished? But could I truly rise from the ashes of his betrayal? And deep down, was I ready to confront the man I thought I knew, face the possibility that everything I believed to be true was but a carefully constructed facade? As I wrestled with these spiraling thoughts, the shadows of judgment from that fateful day began to crowd my mind. I needed to be brave, not just for me, but for the hopeful little hearts I taught each day. I was standing on the precipice of a fierce battle, but my fire was beginning to shimmer within the depths of despair. What revelations awaited me, and would they ignite the fight for my own future before it was too late? The days following Mark's funeral blurred into an indistinguishable haze of grief and dread. Each morning, I awoke to the reality that my life had irrevocably changed. The echoes of his laughter haunted me, and the weight of those accusations grew heavier with every sunrise. I spent hours staring at our home, once a sanctuary, now an ominous reminder of unfulfilled dreams. Sitting cross-legged on the living room floor, I sifted through a mountain of documents Mark had left behind. Bills, loan statements, and a collection of letters from creditors formed a treacherous landscape, each piece revealing the magnitude of his deception. My fingers trembled as I gripped the papers, my mind racing to make sense of it all. Why hadn't I seen the signs? Had I been so blissfully ignorant, wrapped in the cocoon of my teaching career? The carefully constructed walls of our life were starting to crumble as I faced the grim truths. I had two choices: crawl beneath the rubble or rise and fight to salvage what remained. A flicker of anger ignited in me, pushing aside the paralyzing sorrow. With every flick of the paper, I could visualize my independence fighting back against the debts that threatened to swallow me whole. Determined, I registered for a financial literacy course that promised clear strategies to navigate the murky waters of debt management. The thought of facing the unknown echoed in my mind, but if I was to regain control, I needed tools, skills, and, most importantly, knowledge. Each session taught me vital lessons about budgeting, negotiation, and the importance of understanding financial contracts. I discovered I had a knack for numbers, a clarity that I had never acknowledged before. This newfound talent became my lifeline. I began to channel my energy into restructuring my finances, outlining practical steps to overcome the choking burden Mark had left me. It was exhilarating to witness the flickers of empowerment amidst the chaos. Each time I tackled another task, whether it was calling a creditor or crafting a payment plan, I felt the shadows of despair recede. The sweet taste of small victories fueled my resolve. As I delved deeper into financial empowerment, the unsettling thoughts lingered just beneath the surface. In revealing Mark's hidden life, I discovered more than just his failures. I unwittingly unearthed my own hidden abilities. My capacity to face adversity and forge a path was developing, and I found myself imagining a life beyond the rigid confines of my past. Yet amidst this transformation, the emotional turmoil still gnawed at my center. Each time I made progress, the ghosts of betrayal whispered doubts. Would I ever trust again? And more critically, would I ever be able to forgive Mark for the lies that had brought me to this point? It became clear I needed closure from the man who had vowed to protect me, but had instead ensnared me in a web of deceit. I felt I was approaching the pivotal moment. Confrontation loomed large in the distance. My determination rose to meet it, a storm brewing inside me. With each new revelation about my own capabilities, I questioned if I could find the strength to not only confront my past, but also forge a future unencumbered by its weight. As my preparedness grew, I sensed a change in the air around me, a pendulum swinging toward resolution. It was time to face the foundation of betrayal and reclaim my sense of self. What awaited at the end of this journey was still unknown, but the drive within me whispered of a future that was, perhaps, bright and wild with possibility. The time had come to face the ghosts of my past, and I could no longer ignore the confrontation that awaited me. Would I emerge unscathed, or would the truth of Mark's hidden debts drag me under? The day had arrived. With a palpable tension weaving through my thoughts, I stood in front of the mirror, my reflection revealing a woman I barely recognized. The dark circles under my eyes spoke volumes of sleepless nights spent wrestling with rage and sorrow, while my hair, a disheveled halo, symbolized a life in disarray. But beneath the surface, buried deep within, a flame flickered, igniting a fierce resolve not to let Mark's betrayal engulf me completely. I slipped into simple clothes, practical and unpretentious, a stark contrast to the life I once led with him. As I navigated through the house, each step echoed with memories that held both warmth and a creeping dread. Today was not merely about settling scores, it was about reclaiming my narrative, forging a new identity out of the ashes of a life built on lies. The meeting was set at a cafe that had once been our go-to spot. My stomach churned with anticipation and trepidation. I needed to confront the financial advisor Mark had trusted, someone who might hold the keys to understanding the depth of my situation. As I sat down, I reminded myself to breathe. The aroma of freshly brewed coffee floated in the air, momentarily soothing my nerves. But I was not here for comfort. I was here to uncover the truth. "Hello, Rachel," the advisor greeted, sliding into the seat opposite me with a businesslike demeanor. His warm smile felt insincere against the weight of my mission. I nodded in response, forcing myself to meet his gaze. "Let's get straight to the point," I said, the steadiness of my voice surprising even me. "I want to know everything, every detail about the debts Mark left behind, every transaction, every deceit. No more secrets." He studied me with a hint of caution, clearly not prepared for my intensity. After collecting his thoughts, he began to explain Mark's affairs, revealing a tangled web of deferred loans, overdue payments, and risky investments. Each layer peeled back exposed a darker truth that threatened my mental stability. The numbers swirled, overwhelming and relentless, yet I focused on translating that confusion into actionable insight. As I navigated through the chaotic landscape of my finances, I felt consciousness settle over my shoulders like armor. Each transaction illuminated Mark's irresponsibility, but within that darkness, I could see my path unfurling. With each revelation, I felt that inner flame morph into a roaring blaze of determination and clarity. But as the conversation drew to a close, the advisor dropped a bombshell. "There's a looming deadline on some liabilities. If you wish to avoid further complications, action must be taken immediately." His words hung in the air as I contemplated my next steps, the pressure crawling across my skin. I left the cafe with papers in hand, feeling the weight of competing emotions, empowerment battling against despair. Every detail I learned placed me on a precipice, and a sense of urgency surged within me. I was not merely facing financial ruin. I was looking directly into the abyss of betrayal, yet I held the tools to wage war against it. The world outside buzzed with life, oblivious to my internal struggle. Determined, I made my way back home, the papers crinkling in my grip like a manifesto of my fight. With the certainty that I needed to act swiftly, I reflected on the sacrifices that lay ahead. It would require more than just numbers. I would need to summon the courage to confront those I had once feared. What would the next step entail? I pondered as I kicked off my shoes at home, standing resolute in my living room once more. I glanced at the wall that bore witness to our past, and the decision crystallized within me. I would not only confront the financial obligations Mark left me with, I would confront the people who benefited from his deception. I grabbed my phone, scrolling cautiously through my contacts, knowing that a call would change everything. The moment of truth was approaching, one that could either liberate me or bind me deeper into Mark's lies. Would I have the fortitude to demand answers we both owed? The first call felt monumental, laden with the weight of anticipation and dread. I scrolled to Gwendolyn's number, Mark's business partner, and one of the last people I wanted to talk to. If anyone could piece together the chaos Mark had left, it was her. But guilt clawed at me. Gwendolyn had celebrated our engagements as friends, all the while looking on as Mark spun tales cloaked in deception. With the phone pressed to my ear, I felt disconnected from reality. Each ring echoing in my skull had the power to unravel everything that clung to the illusion of control I had just built. When she answered, her cheery voice sent a jolt through me, igniting anger I had tried to cage. "Rachel!" Her incredulity was palpable. "I didn't expect to hear from you." "No," I began, forcing my voice to remain steady. "But we need to talk. It's about Mark." There was a moment of silence, a pause that hinted at unspoken thoughts. "I've been meaning to reach out, but with everything going on, I just thought it might be too much for you right now." "Too much?" I scoffed, frustration bubbling to the surface. "It's already too much. You stand to gain from this too, don't you? I need the truth. Did you know about the debts he left behind, the reckless dealings?" Her response was clipped. "I was not privy to all of his decisions, Rachel. Perhaps if you would consider—" "No," I interrupted. "Cut the niceties. I'm not here for a conversation that placates me. I want answers." My heart raced as the intensity of my demand filled the space between us. Gwendolyn faltered, her composed exterior cracking under my resolve. "Fine," What do you want to know? Did he put you in charge of any assets? Were you involved in any of the transactions? I need clarity on every financial matter he was tangled in, no excuses. My voice gained an edge. The blend of fear and fury fueled my momentum. She hesitated. There were investments, but I assure you, Rachel, they were made with good intentions. We hope to minimize losses together. Minimize losses, I replied incredulously. He dragged me down with him, Gwendolyn. For every lie I disentangle, I feel the weight of his choices pushing me further into despair. This isn't about minimizing losses anymore. It's about survival. The call ended unceremoniously, leaving me with more questions than answers, tinged with a sense of betrayal. Yet, in her hesitant responses, I had glimpsed something, an admission that she might not be as clean as she pretended. Motivation wrestled with apprehension as I stared at the financial documents scattered around the living room. I understood now that my journey was not simply about confronting Mark's lies. I had to explore the very fabric of his professional relationships. He had created enemies and allies alike. With renewed determination, my next target loomed in my mind. Lucas, the bank manager who had welcomed Mark and Gwendolyn into their plush professional circle. He held critical insights that could bind this financial puzzle together, illuminating how deep their deceit ran. I tapped his number onto my screen, the looming question echoing relentlessly in my thoughts. Would Lucas play the friend or the foe? The consequences of this call would either build my foundation or lay the groundwork for my undoing. As the phone began to ring, a new layer of anxiety scaled my apprehensions. Would the truth be worth the struggle? There would be no turning back now. It was time to carve my own path through the treachery and deception, even if it meant dismantling the world I thought I knew. With the line still pulsating, I took a fortifying breath and whispered to myself, "This is for my future." Would I uncover the depths of Mark's betrayal, or deepen the shadows haunting my past? The second call felt worlds apart from the first, but the undercurrent of tension surged within me as I listened to the dialing tone. My heart hammered against my ribs, each pulse a reminder of the uncertain path I had chosen to tread. Lucas was the gatekeeper of the financial labyrinth Mark had left behind, and I had to navigate through whatever secrets he held. "Hello, Lucas here." His voice broke the stillness, smooth yet distant. "Lucas, it's Rachel," I managed to say, already feeling the distance in our relationship. "I need to discuss something urgent." "Oh, Rachel," he responded, an edge of surprise in his tone. "I hope you're doing all right in all this, but I imagine it's quite a difficult time." "No pleasantries, Lucas," I cut in, urgency overtaking politeness. "I need to know everything about Mark's financial dealings. It's imperative." He hesitated, a breath catching in his throat. "I'm not sure if I'm the right person to give you this information. There are protocols, confidentiality." "Protocols?" I spat, frustration igniting once again. He left me with a mountain of debt and hidden traps. "You owe me the truth." My voice crackled with intensity, and I could almost hear him weighing his options, like a ship caught between two treacherous currents. Would he navigate towards transparency or remain anchored in self-preservation? "Okay," he relented, each word a cautious step forward. "I'll compile some of the records for you. But, Rachel, there are things about Mark that may haunt you. He was ambitious, perhaps too reckless at times." "Reckless?" My voice rose, tinged with bitterness. "That's an understatement. His ambition has left me struggling to survive, Lucas. Let me put it this way," he continued. "Mark's decisions were driven by greed, and he didn't always consider the consequences. I can share some documents, but you should prepare yourself. Some people might not be pleased that you're digging into this." A shiver traced my spine. His warning felt like a thinly veiled threat, and yet I leaned into it. Pleased? Not everyone can be funded by deception forever. Who else was involved in his dealings? Is there anyone I should be wary of? Lucas hesitated, the silence weighing heavily. There were associates, some investors who might feel betrayed, or worse, personally insulted. Business is cutthroat. Great, I muttered. Just what I needed. A targeting list of my husband's enemies. This should be fun. The irony settled in as I spoke. My world had turned upside down and became a web of deceit, and yet here I was, taking control of the narrative. "I'll send over the information tomorrow," Lucas said cautiously. "But Rachel, be careful. Some of these people play to win." Coiling my resolve, I finished the call, my mind racing through the implications of his words. Play to win. The phrase echoed like a taunt against the backdrop of my chaos. I wasn't merely a victim here. This was my game now. Each decision would be tactical, every move deliberate, and I knew the stakes were my future. I gathered the fragmented financial documents on the table, their meanings colliding into a broader narrative of betrayal. Hidden skills clawed to the surface, an analytical mind sharpened by necessity. The more I peeled back the layers of Mark's life, the stronger I felt, not just as a victim of his choices, but as a strategist in my own right. The urgency of the past few hours surged through me, mingling with a deep-seated admiration for my tenacity. But lurking beneath this newfound strength was a thrumming fear. What would I uncover when I faced the reality of Mark's world, where loyalty was scarce and safety a fleeting notion? Eyes roaming the documents, a sudden thought pierced through my daze. If Mark had built a maze of lies, then there must be a key somewhere inside it. What I needed was momentum, somebody who could illuminate the darker corners of this professional facade. The door behind me creaked, and I sensed I wasn't alone. I turned sharply, adrenaline kicking in, my heart pounding with an unsustainable rhythm. Had someone been watching me, waiting to seize this moment? The question thrummed in my mind, likely a prelude to my next strategic maneuver in this game of shadows. "Who's there?" I demanded, feeling the storm of tension rise as the air grew thick with uncertainty. And just like that, my hunt for clarity morphed into an immediate confrontation, shattering the fragile veneer of control I had momentarily established. The figure stepped into the dim light, and I braced myself for the confrontation I had feared. It was Jonah, a name I hadn't heard spoken in years, tangled in the back of my memory like an annoying weed in a garden. He was Mark's former business partner, once the charismatic face of their company, the one whom I had instinctively trusted as a friend. "Rachel," he said, his tone deceptively calm. "I didn't mean to startle you." "What are you doing here, Jonah?" I demanded, attempting to mask the tremor in my voice with defiance. "You shouldn't be in my home after everything that happened." "Believe me, I understand how it looks, but I came to help you," he countered, his brow furrowing as if he truly believed his presence was a comfort rather than a threat. "Help? You've got to be kidding me," I said, incredulity bubbling to the surface. My pulse raced as the anger and confusion collided within me. "You're not an ally, Jonah. You were part of his dark dealings." "I was," he admitted, stepping closer, his eyes locking onto mine. "But it wasn't as simple as you think. I wanted to warn you. What you're diving into could destroy you." "Why would I listen to you?" I replied bluntly, every part of me urging to shut him out. Yet, curiosity tugged at my thoughts, mingling with the fear I wouldn't admit. What if he did hold valuable insight into Mark's web of deceit? "Because I know things." His voice dipped low, almost conspiratorial. "Things that will change your understanding of Mark's world and the people left behind after him. You need to understand what game you're playing." The walls felt like they were closing in as I considered his words. Could it be possible that the man standing in front of me knew more about Mark's past than I did? I tightened my grip on the financial documents sprawled across the kitchen table, thumbing through them reflexively. "Why should I trust you?" I pressed, my resolve wavering. "Because I regret what happened. Mark was reckless, yes, but he was also brilliant. He left a trail of destruction in his wake, and I don't want to see you caught in it." Jonah's gaze softened, unveiling a flash of sincerity that momentarily disarmed my resentment. "You're fierce, Rachel. I can see that. But don't trust your instincts blindly, especially when it comes to his associates." "Then tell me what you know," I replied, knowing the words could either lead me into a new alliance or a deeper pit of betrayal. "If you truly want to help, enlighten me." With a contemplative sigh, Jonah reached into his blazer pocket and pulled out a small flash drive. "This is everything I have on Mark's dealings. Emails, contracts, even some of the underhanded deals he made. Use it, but tread carefully. Some of his friends might not like the light being shed on their shadows." I hesitated, the weight of the drive pulsing against my palm as if it were alive with potential. A part of me screamed to toss it back at him, to reject the offer of collaboration with a man I had once considered a rival. Yet another part whispered doubts about facing this labyrinth alone. "You can't just drop a bombshell and think you can walk away, Jonah. This is my life on the line," I said, tilting my head to study his reaction. "I am not here to walk away, Rachel," he replied sharply. "I'm here because I want to see the consequences of his actions brought to light. You deserve that, and more." The tension in the air was thick, laden with uncharted alliances and potential treachery. I looked down at the drive, contemplating the new path it could illuminate. Just then, a glimpse of shadows flickered outside the window, pulling my focus back to the present danger. The stakes were suddenly too high, and I realized the need for a strategic plan was more pressing than ever. "Keep it," I finally muttered, determination coating my tone. "Let's take a closer look together. But know this, I'll be watching you closely, and if your intentions waver, I won't hesitate to cut you out." As we stood before the remnants of my late husband's life, I felt a subtle shift within myself. I was no longer just a grieving widow pawing through shattered dreams. I was a force poised to reclaim my story. But with this newfound resolve came an aching realization. The deeper I ventured into the truth of Mark's dealings, the higher the risk. In the shadows lurked not just the ghosts of my husband's ambition, but new players who could set their sights on silencing me. "Let's see what we've uncovered," I murmured, heart pounding with an exhilarating mix of fear and purpose, knowing with each step forward I was entangling myself deeper into a fight I hadn't anticipated. And somewhere, amidst the chaos I was about to unearth, a potent enemy loomed in the shadows, waiting to strike back. As I watched Jonah's face for any trace of deception, I felt time dilate. The flash drive rested heavily in my palm, a tangible piece of Mark's world that could either empower me or lead to my downfall. Surrounded by the remnants of his life and shattered trust, I sensed a clock ticking down, the urgency of the moment propelling me towards the precipice of discovery. "Let's sit at the table," Jonah suggested, gesturing toward the kitchen. I nodded stiffly, the faintest hint of apprehension coiling in my stomach. This was not just about Mark anymore. This was about reclaiming my narrative, my agency, something I had relinquished too easily in the past. Once seated, I opened my laptop, ready to connect the flash drive. My fingers trembled slightly as I plugged it in, but I steadied my breathing. Curiosity was a fire igniting within me, flaring with the heat of potential revelations. "What's on here that you think I need to see?" I asked, keeping my voice as steady as I could. "Start with the emails," Jonah replied, his gaze flicking between the laptop screen and my face. "It's not just what's there, but what's missing that will be telling." I opened the file and scrolled through a series of exchanges laden with business jargon and coded language, hinting at deeper deals stacked with danger. My heart sank as I recognized names, people I had met under the guise of friendship. Each line buzzed with unaddressed betrayal. "Look here." Jonah pointed at a highlighted exchange dated 2 months before Mark's death. It detailed a transaction involving significant sums of money and a reference to a project that had never reached me. I felt my pulse quickening, a mix of anger and determination settling in my chest. This is where it began. Mark was in way over his head. "So you knew?" I shot back, my emotions bubbling to the surface. "You were complicit in keeping this from me." "Complicit?" "Yes, but I didn't have the power to stop him," he said, running a hand through his hair in frustration. He was obsessed with what he could build, blinded by ambition. I didn't realize the full extent of the risks until it was too late. As my mind raced through the implications of what he was revealing, I found myself grappling with conflicting emotions. There was anger directed at Jonah, but it was also directed inward. How had I been so naive? In seeking to uncover Mark's atrocities, I was simultaneously facing my own vulnerabilities. "Tell me," I replied, forcing control back into my voice. "What's the point of all of this? You can't tell me you're not trying to protect your own interests here." "I won't say I'm entirely innocent," he admitted, leaning in, his expression intense. "But you're dangerous to the people who are still involved with Mark's legacy. If you push forward without understanding who stands against you, you could lose everything." I considered this, the weight of his words coiling into a knot of anxiety. Then how do I find out what else he left behind? How do I navigate through these shadows? "There's another file," Jonah replied quietly, his eyes narrowing with focus. "It contains contacts. People who worked with him, some who despised him. They may be more forthcoming now that he's gone." I hesitated before opening the second file. My intuition screamed at me. The battle ahead wouldn't be won without bloodshed, of trust, of alliances, perhaps even of safety. But I had come too far to retreat now. This was more than personal. It was about justice, uncovering a truth that had loomed in the darkness. As the names of potential allies scrolled onto the screen, a feeling of defiance surged within me. I wasn't just playing a game against Mark's former partners. I was positioning myself in the arena of power. I seized my phone, ready to reach out to a few key figures, tightening my grip on my newfound resolve. "Rachel." Jonah's tone shifted, softer but explicitly cautious. "If you're going to confront them, know this, there's a target on your back now. Proceed but with awareness. You are no longer just investigating. They'll see you as a threat." I nodded, absorbing his warning, my mind racing with half-formed plans and frantic hope. The game was on, and every choice I made could tip the scales of power. For every shadow that loomed, I found resolve lighting my path. "Let's unite against the shadows," I said, surprising even myself with the strength in my voice. "I'll no longer be a victim, I'll be a player." But as the newfound alliance solidified beside me, I felt a cold chill run down my spine. A looming darkness hinted at the unseen adversaries who had yet to reveal themselves. Would they retreat or counterattack? As I prepared to make my first move, a knock at the door echoed through the quiet house, jolting me from my thoughts. I shared a glance with Jonah, instinctively bracing for what lay ahead, ready to confront the next chapter of this chaotic saga. Whoever awaited on the other side could either be my first ally or my most formidable enemy. The knock reverberated in the silence, a faint echo of my racing heartbeat. My instincts screamed at me to remain cautious. The atmosphere shifted palpably. Tension coiled around us as I exchanged a steely glance with Jonah. Each of us navigated the potential consequences lurking just beyond the threshold. "Are you ready?" he asked, his voice low and steady, but I could see the concern written across his features. I nodded, though uncertainty gripped me. I had chosen to step into a world of shadows, and now there was no turning back. With a deep breath, I crossed the distance to the door, each step magnifying the weight of the moment. As I turned the knob and swung the door open, a woman stood before me, her expression unreadable. I recognized her. Sylvia, a former colleague of Mark. Her light brown eyes shimmered with an intensity that flickered somewhere between apprehension and determination. "Rachel," she greeted, her voice cool and clipped. "I need to talk to you." "Come in," I replied, stepping aside, my mind racing with implications. As she crossed the threshold, I was acutely aware of the invisible boundaries that now divided our worlds. I could either embrace her presence as an ally or treat her as a potential adversary. Closing the door behind her, I gestured toward the table littered with the remnants of my earlier discovery, papers and the laptop that felt like a bridge between the remnants of Mark's world and my own nascent path of empowerment. Jonah just filled me in on some of Mark's dealings. I don't know what you might know, but— Rachel, I'm not here to rehash the past, she interrupted, her tone sharp as she locked eyes with Jonah, challenging him to say anything. I have information that you need to hear, and it directly pertains to the people who are still playing the game. Despite my reservations, a spark of hope ignited within me. Here was a chance to unravel more of the mystery surrounding Mark's legacy, to peel away the layers of deception that had shrouded my life for so long. Go on, I urged, my voice firm despite the uncertainty swirling in my gut. Mark wasn't just any player. He was collateral damage in a much larger scheme, one that involved people with deep ties and deeper pockets. They won't hesitate to stamp out any threat, Sylvia explained, leaning in as if sharing a closely guarded secret. You need to be prepared for the confirmation of betrayal that will shake your world. Betrayal. The word landed heavily, reverberating in my mind as I reflected on the names I'd scrolled through earlier. I needed to avoid the pitfall of becoming prey in a predatory game. What do you suggest I do? Those contacts on the drive? They aren't just potential allies. Some are risks in themselves. Reach out to them sparingly. You have to assess motives first, or your role will be quickly defined as the enemy in their eyes, she warned, sharp and clear. It was dawning on me that empowerment was intertwined with strategy, and trust was a luxury I couldn't afford. The chaos of relationships would force me to reconstruct what I believed about loyalty and deception, not just with others, but within myself. Tell me what you know about them then, I demanded, fueled by that fire within. I wanted to harness every piece of knowledge, understanding that my next moves needed precision and intent. Sylvia hesitated, her gaze flicking toward Jonah, an exchange cautious in its energy. I know some details, but I will only share them if you promise to keep your head down. This is dangerous territory. Fine. Just tell me, I insisted. As I leaned in, feeling the tension in my shoulders and the urgency in my spirit, a sense of clarity emerged. I was no longer just piecing together Mark's past. I was crafting my own future. But then, the phone buzzed on the table, shattering the moment's gravity. It was an unknown number, flashing ominously across the screen. Before I could think rationally about ignoring it, Jonah's eyes widened. You should answer that. My heart raced as I picked up the phone, staring at the number that felt like a countdown ticking toward something significant. The game had just escalated, and I was poised on the edge, ready to either advance or collapse. Taking a deep breath, I pressed the button to answer, each second stretching into an eternity as I prepared for the unknown voice on the other end. My next pivotal moment lay just a heartbeat away. The voice on the other end crackled with an unnatural energy, sharp and unnerving against the backdrop of my racing thoughts. Rachel? The voice was low, almost conspiratorial, and carried a weight I couldn't yet decipher. I felt the room shrink around me, the dialogue I was about to engage in towering over every other concern. Who is this? I replied, trying to maintain a facade of strength, though my hands trembled slightly around the phone. I'm someone who knows about the deals Mark made. There's a lot at stake, and you're starting to unravel the threads. You need to move strategically. A sense of urgency laced the stranger's words. Who are you? I repeated, feeling an unsettling pressure to extract information rather than indulge in their games of secrecy. Enough about me. Where's Sylvia? There was a flicker of impatience in their tone, as if the mere mention of her name changed the gravity of our discussion. She's here. What do you want with her? Tell her it's about the cleanup. The situation is spiraling and she's no longer safe. Neither are you. The call ended abruptly, leaving me standing there, a myriad of emotions cascading through me, from anger to fear. I turned to Sylvia, who looked as if she had been struck by lightning. "What was that?" Her voice cracked, betraying a hint of vulnerability masked by professional composure. "They know about you. About us," I replied, forcing the words out. "What do you know about this cleanup?" Her cheeks paled, the weight of the moment clearly dawning on her. "Rachel, you need to understand. The patterns these people follow are unpredictable. They can target you through anyone's weakness if they perceive a threat. We have to be step ahead." "And how do we do that?" I demanded, my burgeoning resolve unshaken despite the chaotic waves crashing around me. "We gather intel. I can provide a list of contacts I trust, but even then, you must tread carefully. Trust is a commodity best measured in caution," Sylvia warned, her voice steadying as a hint of purpose ignited behind her eyes. Jonah shifted in his seat, interjecting into our rising tension. "This isn't about mere contacts, Sylvia. Some of them may have their own agendas." "Exactly," she shot back. "But Rachel needs allyship more than ever right now. If we stand a chance, we must act fast. That means reaching out to those who may have information about Mark's dealings, not just the threats they pose." It clicked in my mind. This was no longer just a mission of truth-seeking, but a strategic game of chess where I needed to emerge as a queen, not a pawn. With renewed clarity, I set my sights on the laptop, fueled by a growing sense of purpose. Let's gather everything we can. If they think I'm a threat, I need to become what they fear, knowledgeable and formidable. "Agreed," Sylvia stated, her demeanor shifting from anxious to determined. "But remember, not everyone will play fair. They'll test your resolve, your loyalties, and your willingness to sacrifice." "Sacrifice?" "Yes," she said, her expression sober. "To uncover the truth, you might have to confront your own truths first. That means digging into Mark's alliances, the very ones that threaten your safety." As I contemplated her words, the enormity of my task settled heavily upon my shoulders. I was no longer just a grieving widow looking for answers. I was a player in a high-stakes game, a game in which losing could cost me my life. I closed my eyes momentarily, picturing the list of names from the drive. Each contact a risk, each relationship a potential weapon or shield. This was the moment I needed to deepen my resolve, to explore the underbelly of Mark's legacy and emerge empowered. However, beneath the burgeoning focus, shadows shifted, whispering doubts regarding the sacrifices Sylvia hinted at. Was I ready to confront whatever truths lay buried alongside my husband's secrets? But the sudden vibration of the laptop startled me again, an email from an unknown sender flashing on the screen. "Rachel, look at this," Jonah urged, pointing at the words that accompanied the address, an invitation into a world full of uncertainty. It was clear my journey was far from over. I took a deep breath, knowing that whatever awaited us on the other side, I was ready to meet it head-on. Little did I know, the invitation would reveal more than I had bargained for, launching me into a confrontation that would test my deepest values and reveal the unforeseen consequences of my pursuit for truth. What awaited in this next chapter could either shatter me or empower me in ways I had never anticipated. As the sun began to rise, casting a warm glow through the curtains, Rachel sat at the kitchen table, the remnants of her husband's betrayal spread before her like a map to the unknown. Breathless from the intensity of the prior days, she felt a sense of strange calm wash over her. Today would be different. It had to be. Having meticulously reviewed the information Jonah had provided, Rachel felt an unshakable clarity take hold. She was not the vulnerable widow who had stumbled into a torrent of deceit, but a woman armed with knowledge and a determined spirit. The game had shifted, and she was prepared to take her place as a player. Rachel spent hours on the phone, making tactical calls to the contacts she'd identified from the flash drive. With each exchange, her anxiety transformed into an electric wave of empowerment. Names turned into narratives, and what had once felt overwhelming became a tapestry of opportunities to untangle Mark's web of lies. She reached out to investors Mark had once approached, the ones who remained tied to his legacy. Each conversation reinforced her resolve, revealing valuable insights into the deeper workings of Mark's dealings and the personal motivations of his associates. With each piece of information, she collected the threads of her independence, firmly stitching her narrative together. Days turned into weeks, and slowly, Rachel began to conquer her daunting debts. Diligently negotiating with creditors and vigilant in her budgeting skills, which had once seemed foreign but now felt like second nature. She had gained a reputation for being a formidable opponent, invoking respect rather than pity. Her newfound tenacity fashioned her into a recognized name within a community rife with financial literacy sparks, delivering workshops that empowered others seeking clarity from chaos. During a particularly empowering session, Rachel took the podium, her confidence sparkling in the spotlight. Students filled the room, eager to learn from what she now deemed her personal journey. She shared her tale of betrayal, despair, and ultimately triumph over the burdens Mark had left behind. The kindness and warmth, it turned out, were not exclusive to her former life, but thrived within her all along. It was a moment of undeniable victory, knowing she had transformed shadows into lessons. But transformation demands more than personal success. As Rachel flourished, she recognized the deeper lesson fibbed within her struggle. It wasn't just about cleansing the stains of her husband's deception, but also about rebuilding trust within herself. She had conquered the dark alleys of fear and faced the reality of living alone, her courage unwavering, which became a foundation for resilience and self-worth. Meeting after meeting unfolded in productive dialogue, not just with former associates of Mark, but with her own sense of self. Jonah shifted from a potential enemy to an unexpected ally, underscoring the complexity of trust, showing her that sometimes alliances form within the chaos of shared ambition. Finally, the day arrived when Rachel stood across a conference room table, facing the last of Mark's associates, individuals who had once relished in the exploitation of others' misfortunes. Yet, as their gazes fell upon her, a ripple of respect coursed through the air. In her pursuit of understanding, she had carved out her own space within this male-dominated realm. With the final presentation given and debts settled, Rachel left the room feeling victorious. She had not only uncovered Mark's secrets like a skilled investigator, but also constructed a future that shimmered with promise. Standing in the hall, she absorbed a deep breath, her heart swelling with pride. She was no longer defined by who she had lost, but by what she had achieved. The past may have taught her brutality, but her journey reshaped her life into a testament of strength, resilience, and independence. She had conquered countless peaks to stand tall on her own terms. As Rachel exited the building, the sunlight kissed her cheeks. She stepped into a future ripe with possibility. She could feel the stirring within, an unquenchable fire ignited by her courage. Today marked not just resolution, but a triumph of spirit. Now, it's time for all of you who resonate with Rachel's journey to step forward and take action. Subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive emotional stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and allow us to reach so many more on this journey of personal overcoming. Comment your reactions and theories about the ending. We want to hear your perspectives. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. Don't hold back from empowering those around you. This is the moment to show your support. Don't wait even one more second to share. True fans of personal growth stories understand the impact of collective upliftment.